Right, I've got audio on now, I'm just letting you know. Anyway, hello, good afternoon, good morning even. I do apologise I'm late. The same as the server one. No, can't be, otherwise everyone will know it.
Well, yeah.
What a crock. Anyway, hello and good morning. So you're going to hear that word a lot. As more people come on, I'll be basically berating it. Oh, dear me. Hey, caveman, how the devil are you? Good morning. So, following on from the...
Coffee refilled.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Following on from the episode...
A couple of minutes because the coffee's already made. It just got open it.
All right, matey. Following on from the episode already... Yeah, this month.
It's too hot.
Yeah, you just leave it to go cool by the side of your computer and don't spill it on it. I'm going to do what I was doing last week. I am going to start right from the beginning for my benefit again. And I'm going to literally, if anyone wants to join in on Huey, I know there's only a couple of you on at the moment, but I will be saying it again a little bit later. I'm going to jump in and start from scratch with a Huey, all the way through, how to make it fly, how to make it work for you, etc. And also on the A10CII. And a lot of this is to do with me remembering it because for those that have been on recently, I had a whole month where somebody had switched my brain off. So it's quite good for me just to make sure that some of the things that I had completely forgotten, not because I'd forgotten them, because my head wasn't where it should be. It's just a case of me knowing that I can still do the stuff I used to do. It would be a shame if everything had disappeared. So I'm going to start with a basic Huey for those interested in helicopters. It'll be very step by step, and if you want to jump in and follow through, if you've never flown one before, it'll also work with the... What's the word? This is what I've been doing. It'll also work with the trial versions. There you go. So I knew it was there somewhere. I'll also go through the A10 all the way through startup, step by step, take off, fly up to a mission maybe, and excuse me. And go through a series of how to use Mavericks and then how to use instrumentation to come and land, etc. So you always know where the runway is when you're coming into land, things to look for, and that's what I intend doing. After that, then, if I've got time, we'll jump into something else. Probably take a more active part in the missions. If anyone's got any questions at all, please jump in and ask. Just one moment. Sorry about this. As soon as I start getting warm, I start to cough a little bit more than usual. So let me just tweak a couple of things on my screen. I might have to adjust the audio again because every time I play with certain things, I'm always making adjustments depending on the time of night. That's because of the neighbours. I don't want to wake up their son, who's only about 2, who happens to sleep in an adjacent bedroom. Right, I'll just give it another few minutes. I'm a little bit late. The reason why I'm a little bit late is because of this stupid, ridiculous crock of shit thing that seems to have been implemented by Eagle Dynamics. So when you go onto a multiplayer server, there's dynamic templates and something else that I haven't had the time to look into the changes. I've been ill most of it and at work the rest of it. And it just meant that when you go into a server, you couldn't choose what you wanted. The stuff that I'd put on wasn't visible. I didn't know why. So when I went to start, I was ready just before 10. I couldn't pick anything. And I didn't know why. And there was no big switch to say on or off. And it looks like it's been, I won't say baby moded. I think from what I understand that it allows you to have password protected aircraft and then general public aircraft to some extent. The problem is with this is I downloaded a mission that's never had this on before, and instead of defaulting open, allowing me to choose what I wanted to be available, it defaulted into a particular mode. But that's what it looks like to me. So it's took me a while to work out what the hell's going on, and all I've done is switched off those factors on a few modules. There's that many on the server that I hadn't got time to go through. But I will be ranting more and more on this as the day goes on. But anyway, I'm going to jump in and get started. If there's anybody on YouTube, I apologise if I can't get back to you straight away. If there's anybody on Twitch, there's a few, just say hello on Twitch, because that checks my audio for me and I know whether the text to voice and everything is working. Cheers. Okay, so this is the Huey. It's one of the simplest helicopters to fly. If ever you want to fly any helicopters, it's a good one to start with. It's very basic. You are flying it. I like the patterns down there on the concrete. Look, those aren't shadows. That's just like a tiling pattern, isn't it? Very simple. It's got two blades, a stabilizer and a tail rotor. One of the nice things about it is there's absolutely no electronics in it whatsoever. It's you flying it, not a system flying it, and you've got to learn the system. If you can get the basics of this down, it will allow you to step into other helicopters and all the way up to the Apache. Although I'd always recommend going via the Shark in between, so you could get a grip on the Apache. I was flying the Apache last week, first time I've been in the co-pilot gunner seat. I could remember more than I thought I would, but I just need to revisit some aspects of that myself again before I start going into it too much depth. Right, if there's silences, I've muted while I cough, and if I forget to unmute, please let me know. Right, to start the Huey up is very, very easy, okay? And what we're going to do is literally, he says, oh yeah, I remember, is what we're going to do is just do a basic startup. We're not going to worry about radar altimeters at this point. It's not something you need. It's something that is useful in a certain type of situation. So if you look up here, just on this bottom panel, we're going to switch to AC phase on this knob here, power AC. And then on the one diagonally down, we're going to click twice to essential buzz. We're going to switch on the main generator and close the little cap over it. And then we're going to switch on the battery. When we switch the battery on, we are going to hear an audible alarm, which hopefully you can hear. If we look down now, just beside the yellow or bright yellow fuel surround by the yellow and red matchstick, there's a low RPM audio toggle, and we switch that off and that siren will go away. It's going because the RPM, surprisingly, is below a certain limit. Obviously it's not switched on yet, but it's a good check for the alarm, and it will automatically switch itself back on once you get started. Excuse me. Okay, what you're going to do now is move the fuel switch forward. The objective of anything when you start it up, you'll see a whole series of alarms, and we need to get rid of all of the alarms before we can actually fly it. Okay, so that's what we're doing now. Make sure the governor here is forward, which is governor auto. That way around you don't have to worry too much about the RPM. Okay, what we're going to do now, let me just put the axis controls on so you can see when I move the joystick there's a diamond in the center that moves. Okay, that's the cyclic. When I move the collective, okay, you see a little indicator increases and you can see the collective moving up and down. When we look at the helicopter, morning Barbie, I've been fighting the bloody menu options this morning. I didn't realise some of the features they've put in, and it's rather annoying. Which is why people can only see certain things. You know, this dynamic bollocks that they've put in that someone thinks is a good idea. Anyway, So when I move the cyclic, you'll see the stabilizer move and you'll see the blades move in opposite directions. Okay, so what this is allowing us to do is allow the helicopter to go forward, backward, left and right. It's our pitch and roll. Forward and back is pitch and left and right is the roll. When we adjust the collective, if you look at the blade, let's zoom in just a little bit there, you'll see that the blades change their angle. Okay, so when you see that, think of having, how do I word it? Bollocks. Think of having a screw, and if you look at a screw, you'll see a thread, and sometimes you see a very coarse thread, and if you're going to screw it into a piece of wood, it'll take a certain number of turns. If you have a very fine thread, it's a lot more turns. And this, if you think of it in terms of a screw, bites into the air, and the more angled there, the more it'll go into the air, the more air it's going to grab a hold of. As you flatten it, it's going to be trying to grab less air. So when it's on full, you've got much more pull going upwards if you were stationary. If you do it gently, you've got less. Okay, so it's the same as a propeller in water. You've got to bear in mind that air works in the same way as water. They're both fluids. The difference is the density of the fluid. Okay, and that's the only difference. If a helicopter could get air and everything else it needs for the engine to work, you could fly a helicopter underwater. Okay, there's no question about it. You couldn't have the blades going as fast as they do, they'd just break, but you could still fly underwater in the same way. What we're going to go through then is starting up how to get this into a hover and how that works, and also understanding some of the flight mechanics. And once you get used to this, then it means you can move on to something like a Shark, and then you can move on to something like an Apache. If you jump straight into Apache and you've never flown helicopters before, you will have difficulty. Okay, if you want to jump in and fly along, follow step by step, you're welcome. It's open to trial modules as well. Right, so the next stage we need to do is add some fuel to the turbine engine. And we do that by rotating this throttle. If you've got your throttle assigned to an axis, if you're using a dual joist throttle and you've got one side assigned to an axis, you'll find that it does nothing when you move the axis. That's normal. There's like a little stop. There's probably a button there somewhere, but you can either use your mouse, you see the wheel, right? You can scroll the mouse wheel, and we're looking at this little indicator here on the top left, and start moving it up. You can use page up, page down on your keyboard, or you can grab it and drag it like I am now. Once that little indicator has cleared this little lock-in area down here, your axis on your second throttle will now work. So you need to push it all the way up, or use page up to get it all the way up, and then all the way back down as far as it'll go. If you notice, it will only stop here. If you try and guess where that is and sort of think it should go there, you're going to get a load of flames out of your turbine. If it was modelled properly, that aspect of it, you'd knackered your engine. So you want to make sure you just push it all the way back down for the start, right, all the way back down to the bottom. Has anyone got any questions so far? Okay, that gives me an opportunity to have a sniff and a cough. And I shut the doors, and I've got those assigned to an up arrow, but normally I think it's right control C. And what we're going to do now is start the engine. When we start the engine, there's a button beneath here that you can't see. So rather than sit here looking at something you can't see, we'll look at these gauges. There's one in the middle here called gas producer. Hopefully you can read that. So when you press the button, the gas producer is going to start to increase. Once it gets to somewhere between 10 and 15, the rotor's going to turn. You keep holding that button until you get to number 40, and then you let go. At the same time, you'll notice that the RPM is starting to increase. So I'm going to press and hold that. You should start to hear the engines somewhere around here, because I forget the number. The rotor should have started turning, but there's no sun shining down, so I can't see that at the moment. Keep holding it down and let go when it gets to 40. And you'll see the RPM increasing and the rotor slowly building up speed. You've got to remember, this rotor isn't something that's extremely light. It's rather heavy. So you can't start it spinning or instantly put the throttle on to full or anything like that, because what will happen is the RPM of the rotor, if you did that, will suddenly increase. The RPM of the engine. And the engine will just increase as much as you want it to on your demand. With the rotor, because of the weight of it, it's got to build up slowly. So if you push the engine too fast, the rotor will shear. Okay, so you can shear the rotor off before you even move, because it can't keep up with the RPM of the engine. If we look here, there's actually two needles. There's one behind the other. So what I'm going to start doing now is gently and smoothly increase the fuel flow to the engine. And there's the second needle there, which is the rotor. And you see the way the engine's trying to go faster? And then that one will catch up. So you have to do it nice and smooth. You can see the fuel indicator here increasing. Go all the way up. And keep going all the way up. And you'll see the needles drop down to the green. When they're in the green, when they're in the green, then that is ready to take off. However, we've got a few more things. As I said, these are warning alarms. If we look on here, we've got hydraulic pressure, inverter and IFF. So the next thing we want to do once the engines are up to speed is move up this second line of lights and switch on the hydraulics. We're going to switch the force trim on, which I'll talk about after, and we're going to press the chip detector forward and relax. And what that does is checks the oil in the rotor gearing for any metal fragments. Okay, if there's any metal fragments in there, it'll come up with an alarm. There shouldn't be. That's because it's not a real helicopter, but that's the process. Over on the left hand side, this is the IFF, identify friend or foe radio. It's usually controlled by the co-pilot over here. However, it has no functionality, except it needs this right knob switching on one click, and then you'll see the IFF go off there. Okay. It also now requests that we switch on an inverter. If we look up to the same panel as we was at before, here's the inverter. So we switch that onto main, and we're going to switch the starter generator down to standby. So the helicopter started. You could fly it, but there's a few things you need to do. If you look over here, we can see an orange warning light with a master caution. This warning light comes on and it's a latched switch, a latched indicator. So what that means is whenever there's a warning on this panel down here, that will come on and stay on unless you reset it. The reason for that is if I'm sitting here looking around, the chances are I'm not going to be looking down here, so I wouldn't notice any alarms. So this is coming on to tell me there's a problem. I would then look down here, see what the problem is. The usual one you're going to get is when the weather is cold. When the weather is cold, the rotor will start to ice up, and there's a heater just down here, a de-ice heater. When you switch that, that light will go off. But other than that, apart from your bad flying or it's damaged, most of these alarms will stay off. We reset the master caution and any alarms with this reset test switch, which is located just to the left of the left column of indicators. So if we press that forward, you'll see that this alarm has gone off. If we pull it back, it's an alarm test. We have a whole series of radios and things. At this stage, not too worried about them. Okay, what we've done is started the helicopter up. The next step is to align your compass. Compass alignment was something that used to exist back in the days when the Huey was around and some of the older helicopters. I don't believe it's a thing on the new helicopters because they're all GPS, blah blah blah. If we look here, right, we've got two compasses, or compi if you like. This one on the right hand side is a magnetic compass. This one here is the electronic compass that's controlled by the helicopter. This one says we're 2 notches slightly off to the right towards 33, and this one isn't far off. That's just because of the placement of the helicopter, and it is complete fluke. Okay, so normally this is always pointing that direction and this will point in a different, so we need to adjust it, and we adjust it with this synchronizing knob. Okay, now as I turn this knob round, you'll see there's a circle. If I keep turning it round and round, it'll change to a cross. What that circle means is we're not far enough, and the cross let me just hit that little button there. Off he goes. Right. So what this usually means is if you can see a circle, you're not in the right place. If you can see an X or a cross, you're not in the right place. So you need to see half a circle and half a cross. However, if you look here, I'm slightly off towards 1.5 and S, and here I'm off towards N and 33. So just be mindful that even though that is nearly right, it's not quite but nearly, it's easy to set this 180 degrees away from where it should be. So if you turn round, it will do exactly the same thing again in 180 degrees time, and there it is. Okay, so when we set it to about half a cross and half a circle, and now we compare, you see it's nearly 2 notches to 33, and here it's a little bit over. How many notches have we got here? Big one, 2 big ones, 1, 2, 2 big ones. So you can see we need to bring this back just a little bit to about there, and that's more or less the same as that. Okay, and now we'll be flying in the right direction. We've also got a heading set, so if we want to fly somewhere, we can just turn this round, and we need to put it on the direction we want to go, and then we move the helicopter around so that this little indicator sits just below this indicator. Okay, and that's in its simplest form. We're not going in a direction at the moment. Right, so once we've got started up, hey Sham, 52 months, blimey. Another 8 months, mate, and that's been 6 years. That's terrible. How are you, Sham? Right, so what I'm going to do now is take off. And this particular helicopter, I'm going back to basics at the moment, Sham. I'll be doing this and the usual routine. Yeah, no worries, matey. And then I'm going to do A10, and I might get into another helicopter after. It's just for my benefit after the past month or so, to be fair. Just so I know what I know and what I know what I don't, if you know what I mean. So what we're going to do now... Yeah, exactly. However, right, I struggled for the first half hour because they've introduced something that apparently has been there and I hadn't noticed because I haven't done a lot. And I couldn't even pick anything that I wanted. That they've got this stupid load of bollocks dynamic templating and passwords on things. And when I opened up a map that I downloaded, it set everything by default. And it really screws you over because it means I'd have to go through every single aircraft when I found out what it was and reset everything, which is like pointless. It should default open and it's up to you to select it, but hey ho. Unless someone's changed the original mission, I don't know. But anyway, here we are. I have no idea what the passwords are either. So what we're going to do is take off. Now the Huey, oh exactly, the Huey, when you take off in it, if I do nothing other than use the collective, it will go forward, it will rotate round to the right, it will roll right, and it will crash just over there. Okay, so if I just literally push the lever up as you would in an arcade game, we're going to have problems. So on the basis that it's going to start spinning to the right, I need to push the rudder over to the left to counter it. So if you give it about 30% or a third of this bottom left quadrant to the left, that's more or less in the right place. Okay, as you take off, if it starts spinning left, just relax that turn a little bit. If it spins right, then give it a bit more. When you take off, right, you'll feel it go light on its skids. This doesn't have wheels, it's got skids. And as it goes light, you want to start to pull back your joystick somewhere around about here to the left and back slightly. So in other words, it's in the diagonally opposite direction that the helicopter's trying to go. And once we do that, we should be able to hang around this area without flying off out of control. The helicopter is very easy to get in the air. The first time you get it into the air, you're going to be all over the place, and when you try and land, you're probably going to crash and break it. The beauty of it, and the reason why you would learn with this, is without all this talking that I've done, it's very easy to start up, right, and get going again. So whilst you might think it's frustrating to crash, it's just an opportunity to learn that startup process. I'll get onto that in a minute. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do now is give myself about a third to the left, start to increase the collective. That means put that pitch on the blades that I showed you at the beginning. And as we get light, I'm going to gently pull back on the stick and move it down to the left. Okay? And you'll see it doesn't take much. And we're sort of in a hover, but not quite. Now, when you first do this, it's not going to work like this. This will help you, definitely, but it won't be the same. So one of the things we're going to do and talk about is how you actually control the helicopter, because everybody basically thinks that if you'll fly it like a plane, but it's completely different. So what I'm going to do is just pop the helicopter back down again, and then we're going to talk about the controls, and we're going to talk about getting the hover set in something called ground effect. Some of this sounds technical. I'll try and make it not too technical, as you'll find, but you'll get the gist. So one of the first things I need to have an understanding of is, where's the wind? Is there any wind? And if so, where's it blowing from? So if we look at the briefing on this particular map, scroll to the bottom, you'll see it tells me where the wind is. Okay, so at ground it's 1 meter a second, and it's about, it says 360, 180. Whenever I read these numbers, which I thought it should be a bit more than that, but this will do, I find it confusing. Okay, so the easiest way is to go and have a look at some smoke. Right, you could look at the flag, and the flag's a bit limp, but let's go and have a look at the smoke and see what it's doing. And the easiest way of looking at smoke is by jumping into free cam, which is possibly, he says, now I've said it, control shift. Oh, what is it? It's a F11, isn't it? Lovely. Why can't I get into it? Is it Alt? Could be Alt Shift. Oh, man. Anyone remember what free cam is? Because I'm sure it's different to what I'm doing. It shouldn't be. Oh, I know what it is. I don't think my keyboard's doing anything. Look. That's what's going on. Just one moment. I think my keyboard has decided not to work. That is not me. I'll just plug that back in. Sometimes I have this little problem. It should come back on in a minute and then it'll work. And I've actually, what am I catching? Oh, I've caught a button somewhere. Look, I can hear by the engine. Something's changed, hasn't it? Look, when I was pressing buttons. That's really weird. Is it the fuel? No, that's the fuel. That's up and down. That's fine. So something has changed. Let me see if it's working now. Nope. Wonderful. That worked. That's working. Okay. Could be the caps lock. Well, that's really weird, isn't it? I can't get into thingamajig mode. And I don't know why. Don't you think you're having one of those days? Let's go to the easiest way. Yeah. I hope they haven't changed it. They shouldn't have done, but you never know. They've already changed the whole bloody stupid arsehole in menu system. Sorry if that sounds a little bit annoyed, but... Right. Where's free camera? Right. Oh, don't tell me they have changed it, because they've squeezed extra views in. If anyone can see F1 cockpit view, I know it's normally around F11. Jump to free cam, left control, F11. Okay, left control. Oh, wait 1 minute. No, that's right, there. Right, okay, that should go to there. Sure there was a shift in it, but I might be wrong. Okay, right. That's what we wanted. I do apologise. Right, so once you are in free cam, you can see what the smoke's doing and we can see which direction it's going, okay? Get back to where we were. The helicopter's obviously a bit knackered, but that's fine. So you can see it's blowing in this sort of direction, okay? Get back to where the helicopter is, which is over here. So as far as the helicopter's going, the wind is blowing slightly over in that direction. I can't see what this is doing or why it's suddenly... Oh, I can. Look, that's gone. There we go. That had dropped while I was pressing keys from auto to manual. No worries. So what I need to do when I take off is turn slightly left, and then I'll try and trim it in ground effect. What ground effect actually means is when these rotors are going down, they are pushing air downwards onto the floor. When that air is pushed downwards, it bounces on the floor and provides a cushion of air underneath you, and that's called ground effect. If we want to hover in ground effect, it's a bit like a hovercraft, or if you've ever played air hockey at an arcade, and the helicopter will literally float on that cushion of air and it will support it, okay? So if we can get that, it means we should be able to get the helicopter in a nice ground effect hover under control. And the way we're going to do that is by using the trimmer. Just one moment. So what the trimmer does is it basically allows you to adjust this cyclic and then lock it in position. Okay? And the benefit of that, especially in helicopters such as the Huey back in the old days, is these were worked and there was a lot of effort needed to move this stick around. So if you were going to fly for an hour in a Huey, right, you'd end up with arms like Popeye. If you don't know who Popeye is, you'll have to Google it. So it allowed you to stick it into a position, and when you make any adjustments, it's based around that position. And it uses, I believe, like a friction or magnetic thing. I think this might be friction in this. But it uses like a lock, okay? And it will hold it there. And then everything you move is based on that being the centre point. Your joystick at home, unless it's force feedback, does not have that feature. So what DCS does is it creates a method, or has created a method, where you can use the same thing. And there's two methods. There's one called instant action, and there's one called centre stick. Now you can use whichever one you think. The difference between the two, the trim is set as soon as you press the trim button. Just one moment. The problem is with that is if I set my stick to this position, if you look on the top left, you can see what I mean, and I've pushed it slightly forward. If I trim it there, the second I hit my trimmer, it sees that as the center position, and because I'm still holding my stick, because I'm not quick enough to let go, right, it's going to add the same amount of stick movement onto the position as if it was there. So it will double that movement, and it makes it really difficult, in my opinion, to manage a helicopter like that. The alternative is what we call center stick. So I move the stick forward to where I want, trim it, and now I am carrying on pushing my stick, and my joystick is now all the way forward. I'm now moving my joystick all the way around its full axis, and it's like a spade in a bucket, and yet there is no input to the helicopter. Now, as I relax my grip on if I relax my grip on the joystick, the spring will centre it, and as soon as it's centred, you'll see this joystick do a little jiggle. And once it does that jiggle, I can move the stick and it will move based on that location. So watch the stick as I relax, jiggle. Okay? And now, when I move the stick, you'll see this move instantly. Okay? And there's my new centre. The stick in game is at that location. My real life joystick is back at the centre. So when I reset this, you'll see it drop back to the centre. Okay? And that's the difference between the two. I personally use this. I do it without thinking about it. As soon as I trim, I just relax the grip on my stick centres, and then I've got control back. It doesn't double the amount of pressure I've got on the cyclic. It doesn't cause me any control issues whatsoever. The only issue you will get, especially if you're new, is if you get into a situation where you start to lose the helicopter, or you're attacked and you do a panicky move and you press the trimmer, you will forget to do that action, and you'll wonder why the helicopter's taking you away and crashing you into the floor. And that's what it is. Is everybody clear on that? Has anybody got any questions on that at all? Very quiet in chat today. 2 people have spoke. So the other 500 of you, the other 10 are probably bots. So if you're not a bot, please feel free to say hello. If you've got any questions, just jump in. Yes, I do a lot of talking and try and explain stuff as I go. If you want to take part, you're more than welcome. The password's Mel 1 2 3 4 5. Just one more. Right, what we're going to do now then is try and trim in ground effect. Hey, synthetic. No worries, matey. That's absolutely fine. I do often wonder whether I've really only got 2 people on or 3. Do you know what I mean? And it is nice to know people are there, and I appreciate if you're just listening. You're probably sitting there. I'll send you to sleep while you're playing your game. Hey, Jakes. Isn't it funny how you can do that? Because it means you're not properly listening. It's just a voice in the background. I work with a telly on. Oh, right, no worries, matey. I'll put the radios on after. Right, so what I want to do now is get this helicopter set into a hover in ground effect. So ground effect is only something that happens within a certain region above a solid object. And the reason I word it like that, it doesn't literally mean ground, although it's called ground effect. If I was to go to that tower over there to the right, I would get the same effect from the top of the tower. If I'm on a ship, I would get the same effect from a ship. If I'm climbing a mountain, the mountain will allow me to try. It'll give me ground effect, but at an angle, and if I'm not careful, I'll blow the helicopter up before I get up the mountain. I'll explain that later. So what I'm going to do is lift myself up. I need to maintain a ground effect hover, which is at a height no more than, I think it's 1.5 times the diameter of the rotors. So there's the rotors. Imagine all the way from tip to tip plus back to the middle again gives me the height for ground effect, and it's a very useful thing to be able to do. It helps you with your landings, and it helps you learn control of the helicopter. Unlike an aircraft, when you move the stick, you don't sort of just shove it forward like this and off you go. You do tiny little nudges. A nudge is where you would move it and then relax, move it and relax. This is exaggerated. I've got an extension on my stick. I've got my stick between my legs, so my movement is reflected more or less 1-to-1. If you've got a stick and it's on your desk, I used a Warthog stick for years, and it was on my desk, and I could make this helicopter move and you would not see the stick move. I'll show you that anyway. I can still do it even now. That I am moving that stick enough. Let me just zoom in so you can just get an idea. Right, compare the stick to where this light is, and I'll show you what I mean. So I am moving this stick enough to make that helicopter move forward if it was in the air. Okay, and the pressure you need is slight. It's all a series of small adjustments. That's how you fly helicopters, not just wanging your stick somewhere. There are occasions when you may do that, but not normally. So I'm going to lift up, and I'm going to turn towards the wind a little bit, and then I'm going to set my trim, and I'll sit back here if I can, and you'll see when I set my trim and relax, and you see a little jiggle in the stick. So let's lift up. I'll give it a bit more left, pull back on the stick, turn around just a little bit, and I'm going to point about there. Hopefully no one's coming, and I'm going to press the trim and relax. You see the jiggle. See what the helicopter does. It's going to go back. So now I'm going to make adjustments. Can you see the stick going forward and middle, forward and middle, forward and middle? Stopping the helicopter. And I'm going to press the trimmer again. Relax. Okay, it's going back again. I'm going to do it slightly more. Forward and middle. Can you see my stick moving? Can you see the helicopter reacting to my movement? Press it, let go. And you see the helicopter slowing down. Now the reason why I do it over here is if you look, you've got definite, right, horizontal and vertical lines. If you get this dust, ideally you don't want to do it there. You want to use these lines here for a point of reference. So we are hovering, but we're still being pushed back slightly. Let me move the helicopter over there a little bit, and then I'll relax my grip on the stick, and then we'll let go again, because it's really difficult to try and do it if you're on desert or grass and you've got dust. It's quite a difficult process to do until you're used to it. If you do it when you're looking here, right, you can see these horizontal vertical lines. Right, I've let go of my stick again. Wait to see what the helicopter does. It's still pushing backwards, so I'm going to jiggle it forward. Thank you very much for the follow. Okay, I'm going to just jiggle the stick, tiny little movements, press the button. Let's see what happens. And slowly you can see I'm adding tiny little bits of movement and moving the stick forward. You should see the diamond on the left hand side moving forward, and I'm getting into a hover. Let me slow down. If you set them as, when you set them as player, usually if you've I don't use mods at all, so I'll just let you know that so I don't use mods at all, right? I only ever use what the modules are. But if it looks like they're AI only, it's usually more to do with the setting. Rather than use player, set it to client. So client is normally if you're on a multiplayer server. If it's set to player and you're trying to run it as a multiplayer, then you probably find you can't get in them. So you need to set it to client if you're running it as multiplayer. What I would tend to do is always set it to client anyway. I don't use the player mode. And very often in DCS, if you set a plane and you can't get in it, it means you haven't got the module. So you may have to look at the configuration and just follow the instructions again, folder wise and everything else. But try it set to client first. If it's not that, I would suggest that it's likely to be the configuration that you've got set up. I would just cross-reference it and make sure everything's named as it should be named and located in the right places. If you want to go and try that and see if it helps, come back and let me know. You're welcome. Okay, so I'll just go back up, and as I was saying, let's give it a bit of left. Slowly we'll get to a position. Now ideally you should not have trim set when you're on the floor, you set it when you're in the air. But I'm just trying to compensate for the wind and stuff until this is fairly stable. With a little bit. And it is small movements. When you're learning, right, it will take you a little bit of time. As you start to get better, you'll find you can sort of just instantly go into this. In fact, you don't really need to go into it too much. You just need to get it into a position, and then you'll find that you've got a hell of a lot of control over your helicopter. Okay? It always seems to be going back, and I've noticed that recently. It doesn't seem to want to hover as well as it used to. Morning, Chaz. Okay, now if you can't get it 100% perfect, right, get it as close as you can. Now I always find it's much easier to do when there's a little bit of wind to lean on. Okay, and the idea is once you get it pretty close, watch, if I want to stop this helicopter now, I've got a new center point. So watch, all I've got to do is put the tiniest of movements, or hold the tiniest of pressure on my helicopter, and it'll just stop moving. Alright, so I'll show you what I mean. Come on. Okay, so that's close enough, and the reason I want to be able to do that, and we'll come to it later, is so I can sling. The reason you want to sling is obviously picking up things, and you need to be able to hover within a circle and keep the distance and the height stable. So this is by far enough. If I'm carrying gunners, or my friends are in the helicopter as well, right, then basically I can put them in position and put the guns that they've got into that position. If I'm coming down to land, if I can get into a hovering ground effect first, it's going to be a lot easier to land, and we'll come to that after. Now that we've got this more or less in a hover, right, you'll find if we just turn round, let's put my head tracking back on. I'm going to nudge the stick in this direction. You can see me doing that now. We're going to go over here. You can see the stick going forward and middle. Then I'm going to let go. And we'll just float on this cushion of air. The wind will have an effect on it as well. But the interesting thing is, without using my hands, I was holding them up then to show you, even though you can't see. If I slowly turn round, we should find that as we start to point back into the wind, the helicopter should, he says, slow down and come back to near enough a stop by itself, which it is. Can you see that? So I haven't touched my stick at all. That's just the helicopter now pointing back into the wind. And look at it, okay? So you know you've got a reasonable hover. That's just me not touching. So once you can do that, the next stage, right, bearing in mind I haven't changed the collective, so I've not put any more pressure, is to learn how to fly around objects. And the best objects to fly around are ones that are not going to move. So since DCS started and made all the trees collisionable, it's a good idea for a number of reasons to fly around trees. I like hangars because you can do a lot of practice with hangars. So when I actually started to get my head around this helicopter, the way I used to learn control was to fly around things that don't move. If I made a mistake, my helicopter's gone, I've got to start up again, okay? So what I'm doing, by the way, as I'm flying, just watch my stick and see how little movement there is in it. Now that we've got it in some sort of semblance of control, we'll go and fly, and what we need to understand is how wide is the helicopter? Where does my rotor come to? Where's my tail rotor? If I'm going to go in between something or around an obstacle, how can I make sure that I'm not going to hit my tail rotor? I'm not going to hit the rotor. And the only way you're going to do that is practice. When you learn to drive a car, when you first start, you're very, very wary of how close you are to other cars when you overtake parked cars, when you overtake anything. But after you've been in it a little while, you'll notice you don't even think about it, you don't look at it, you just do it, okay? And that's because you've got used to how wide your car is. You also have a pretty good idea of what it'll fit through, right? And where your mirrors go when you overtake another car. So you're not going to knock someone's mirror off. And there's an element of it's just the same as this. And the only way you're going to do it is by practice. So when you come up to some sort of area, you've got to assess, are you going to fit through it? Whereabouts do you need to be when you cross through it? What am I going to do when I get through it? Where am I going to be moving to? Right? And the last thing you ever want to do in a helicopter is a sudden jerky move. If you do a sudden jerky move, the chances are you've lost your helicopter, okay? You should know where you are. You should be able to go around things, in between things. As I come up here, we'll get to the hangars soon. I think they're just up here, over there. And I think the hangars are perfect for doing this. You can use trees. There's some tanks there. See that gap? Right? You can't get through there, but most of your helicopter can. So you put your helicopter body through the bit that you can and keep your rotors just above the height before they crash. Now I've said all this, and I'll show you what I mean, there's a very good chance I am going to do exactly what I'm trying to explain to you not to do. And if you practice this sort of stuff and use obstacles and fly close, fly around, keep your control, speed under control. See the way we're speeding up? All I've got to do, I'm not touching my collective, all I've got to do is use my cyclic and just add in those movements I explained, and suddenly look, it's all under control, back in a hover. Right, give it a little nudge, see me nudging it now, it'll start moving forward. And this is an exercise not about speed, it's just about control, and it's about understanding where your helicopter is going to be. By the way, for those that are fairly new to the channel, the reason why I'm going down into such depth at the moment is because I had a month of being ill, and as part of that illness my head was turned down to about 5 instead of 14, and things disappeared and I couldn't remember things, and I had temperature at the beginning and it really screwed me over. So I didn't stream for a couple of weeks. The next week was only 2 hours because I suddenly found I couldn't cope with what was going on, which was just bizarre for me, to be honest. Right, when I'm in here I will be using my collective just so I can use the height. But if you look, we've got gaps, and those gaps are just nice for a helicopter, and I've got to assess whether I'm going to be able to fit through the gaps before I get to the gaps. We can slow down again, just very gently, using the cyclic to make adjustments. You want to go through quite low. You can see the shapes of the hangars. Okay, you've got to try and make sure that your blades go over the hangars. You've got to know where your tail rotor is. Okay, and is your tail going to go through if you go through? And what if we don't go through like sort of completely forward all the time? What if we've got one that's offset? Where's my tail rotor? Can I turn round here? Can I get round without my tail bouncing off the thing behind me? Do you see what I mean? And again, it's not a speed challenge, it's a control challenge. And you don't necessarily have to go through forward, so we can go round here and maybe we can slide around this one over here and then go forward on the next one and then rotate round. Okay, and this will give you that level of control that you need for your helicopter. I'm looking to see where I'm going, and I'm having a good idea of what's going on behind me, where everything is, where my rotors are, etc, etc. But I'm not going to do much more of this. You just generally get the gist. We can see the one in front is really, really big. The more interesting one is this one, slightly to the right. So let's see whether we can get round here. Now I've got to be careful, because if I go through just at the base of the gap, my tail's going to hit. It might still hit. So I'm just going to lift up just a little bit as I go round, so part of it goes over the top of this hanger there and then over to the other side, and if I want to stop I can just stop. If I'm close to an object like that, as long as I don't do any sudden movements and not panic, then that's fine. And if I can move around the object, that's even better. Why would it be better? Because when I've got guns on, if I'm shooting at something that's over there, I'm going to be able to shoot at it all the time. If I've got door gunners on, I'm going to be directing my door gunners to where I want them to shoot. So just sitting doing this is such an easy thing to do. Even if you're busy, you come home, you got a quick half hour, and it is one of the few modules that you can actually do this right in half an hour. Jump in, get it started, have a fly around and practice. And I'm not even thinking too much about what I'm doing. Okay, and over time you'll find you can do it too. You can fly into gaps like you can see over here in this thing, and then you can turn around and come back out. And although the hangars have changed slightly, I was sent a video by one guy who we used to fly with, who flew into one of these little hangars on the left, but half the times the doors don't work. He turned the helicopter round and then flew back out again. And it's just challenges, do you know what I mean? It's like, what's this wood doing here? Now you can see the wood in theory, and I'm not going to do it because I will crash. I've not done it before. You see the little gap between that wood? I wonder if you can get the body of the helicopter through there, the gap between the helicopter and the rotor through the gap, and the blades over the top. Never tried, but that would be an interesting challenge, wouldn't it? Don't you think? Right, so is everybody happy? Everybody understands what I've just explained? Once you've done that, we can start to look at or think about picking up a sling load. Sling loading, I don't know whether they've fixed it, is bugged on multiplayer. Excuse me. Sling loading is bugged on multiplayer. okay, which is one of the reasons why you'll find when it's done, it's quite heavily scripted a lot rather than doing realistic slinging. There's a little bit of desync. Sometimes you'll think you've put something on the floor, somebody else will see it in the air. Not only that, they can collide into it. So there's a sling load over there. So what we're going to do is add in another couple of little things. First of all, if we look at the helicopter, the hook is right under the centre of gravity. You can see the hook there. It is underneath or at the bottom of the rotor. That will be its strongest lifting point without putting in any undue stress or strain on anything. If we look inside, we can see that the rotor goes just behind that bulkhead. Okay, so judging it, I would say you can see it in between the T and R where it says training. Excuse me. So it's also in the middle going that way as well. If we line everything up, you can see it's in the middle. So what we're going to do is have a look at how to sling. If we go to controls, and I think they've changed it slightly, but I'll show you the way I do it. There's, oh, yes, they have changed it. Oh, I'm on general, wait one moment. That's my fault. I forgot to change it back. So we want UH1. Okay. So you can see here, external cargo auto unhook. I've got a button assigned to it, or a hat. An external cargo hook. And that's it. So I've assigned a hat to hook it and auto unhook it. If we look up here as well, right at the top, there's this little standout switch that sits there, and if you hover over it, it's called the radar altimeter, and I'm going to switch that on. It's a giant size toggle compared to everything else. If we look down here now, we can see the altimeter. There's two adjustments, a low setting and a high setting. So the high setting, when it's set to a height, it will pop up and it'll indicate high. When we adjust the low setting, it's going to enable this gauge, and when you're below that setting, it'll say low. You'll see it switch on now. Okay, and it says low because we're less than the height of that. I am not interested in this. I am interested in this. This is telling me what altitude we are, and currently it's 0. So the way we pick cargo, if this works, unless they've changed something, is we hit F10, we go to the parent directory, and it will show us all cargoes. It will always list the closest cargo at the top. And if we look around, there's cargo there, I think there's one over there, and there's one over there. I suspect it's going to be this one. So if I select this easy cargo 1, it tells me it's 900 pounds. Okay, that is an imperial measurement, and if you don't know what pounds are, there's 2.2 pounds to the kilogram. So if you divide 900 by 2.2, you'll get an idea. Just one moment. When I click on this, what we should see is red smoke. And we'll only see red smoke out of the cargo that we've selected. If anyone else is with you, and they're also collecting cargo, or trying to select it, sorry, they will not be able to see your red smoke. So when they select cargo, it will select one for them. Now I'm going to move slightly, and I'm going to show you. Let's move my keyboard out, otherwise it'll be in the way. As we sort of look at the cargo, right, you'll see there's red smoke, and the red smoke is blowing in a direction. Right?
Forward.
Now, as you get close to the cargo, the red smoke will go off. I've just switched it off. I didn't intend to. What I was going to say is when you go to pick cargo up, park up a little bit further away, and if you've trimmed this, right, what I'm going to do is switch it off and select it again so that we get the red smoke. If you've trimmed this the way I've just said, you want to go and sit so that the smoke blows in your face. Because we've already trimmed it to the wind, then the smoke hopefully will be blown in your face when you get close. So let's cancel it and then just pick it again. Now it might pick one of the others. We may be a little bit close to the one on the left, but we'll see. We can do that with parent and all cargoes, cancel. And then if we select it again, wrong button. We've got the same one. So I would always go and sit so that you can see where the wind's blowing, and I would make sure that you are stable, okay? So I'm going to lift up a little bit. Now normally I wouldn't be doing this and landing in between. I would have set my trim. And let's make sure that the helicopter is hovering nicely in that smoky area, which it is. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, don't need to do any adjustments. If we call up the what's it called, the knee pad, there you go, I remembered it a few weeks back. I would never have remembered that. You would have had to tell me. If I call up the knee pad, which is right shift K, and we switch using square brackets, we'll get to a point, he says, where it should tell me a page of settings for the cargo. It may be the first one right. Now this has been overwritten, of course, by the mission, and whether it completely overwrites it, there it is, there it is. I bet it was the first one, right? Can you see on there, it gives me the key combos for the auto hook, sorry, for the auto unhook. It also tells me what the rope length is. The rope length is 49 feet. There are 12 inches in a foot. 12 times 49 divided by 39 should give you meters. Okay? And the weight is £899 or £900, which is fine, which we can understand. Right, so just bear with. So this is a question not to those who know, where is the best place for me to hover? Bearing in mind, if we look at the helicopter, okay, the hook is under there, helicopter's probably about 2 foot off the floor, maybe just under 2/3 of a metre. What height is the best height for me to hover to pick up that cargo? And you've got about 30 seconds to answer. Hey James, sorry James, I can't always, because you're on YouTube and this is a little bit late, I do apologise. I don't hear the comments from YouTube. I hear the comments from Twitch. It will automatically speak them. So sometimes when I'm doing what I'm doing, I miss. You're guessing 20 feet, okay, that would seem reasonable. Anybody else? Let's go and have a little look at the cargo, shall we? Anybody else got a guess? Right, let's go and have a look. Look how high the cargo is. It's probably, again, another 2 or 3 feet. There's the hook. That's where it's going to hook into. We've got a 49-foot rope. Anyone else got another guess? 49-foot rope, about 2 foot or so height, with a hook over the helicopter, and that's round about, I would say, 3.5 foot where that is. So what height would I go over? Right, okay. The height is going to be the closest possible height that you can get to that cargo without destroying it. Destroying it is by hitting it with the skids or the helicopter. What will happen is the rope will drop, right? And it will be attached. If you're trying to hover so that the rope is more or less at the length of the cargo, how difficult is it going to be for you to maintain the position in the air? The reason why you can see this jiggling is I'm actually doing hand actions. Right? So you want to get as low as you possibly can to the cargo. But we know that the rope length is 49 foot. And we know that the cargo is probably 3.5 foot or so. So if you look here, that's 0, right? It will tell you when you've hooked. It'll tell you when you've nearly hooked, okay? And it'll tell you to tension the rope. So we should start lifting that up to about 50 feet, for instance. So you don't want to go shooting off when you've got it hooked. You want to go up nice and gently till you're at 50 foot, tension the cargo, and then you can pick it up. So always go as low as you can. As we start to go over the cargo, this little guy on the left is going to tell me to go forward. Surprisingly, he's going to go forward 10, back 10, left 10, right 10, and so on. If you do this right, you can slide over the cargo and have it hooked. And I used to be able to do it in about 3 seconds, but that's not going to happen today, I'm telling you, okay? So the way you do it is you get pretty close, and then because you've got it all set up for a nice hover in ground effect, you should be able to nudge the helicopter, and the helicopter will slide over the cargo. And then you should also be able to slow it down with your control that you've just learned so that you're in position. Now, if you imagine a circle about where that hook is on the cargo, all you've got to do is stay within that boundary of the circle and not move up and down. And it's as simple as that. So you want to slide over. As soon as you're sliding over, slow it down. This guy here will say in position, and to speed it up, press the button you've set and it'll say you are hooked. Okay? So let's try and do that. Okay, so my ears are popping. So I'm going to get close. Oh, I need to push the keyboard. I've got a keyboard on the slide and it just comes out just close enough to foul my stick. Right, so we should have a nice hover already that we did earlier. So I'm going to slide towards the cargo. If we have a quick look outside, you can see how high I am there. Usually I do this a bit closer, but it's easier to explain when I give more time. We know where the skids are. The hook is just there in the middle of that panel over to my left. If we follow this line down on the glass, follow that line down the middle of the radios and stuff, imagine it's over my left shoulder and it's about maybe 3 feet away from me, over in the back seat, slightly to my left. Then that's a pretty good estimation of where the hook is. So I need to get that part of the helicopter over there. And you can see how slow I'm moving. And again, if you do the exercise that I told you about earlier, if you get this in ground effect, this should be extremely easy, okay? That does not mean to say I will do it extremely easily, but we'll see what we can do. We've got the wind into our nose, which is where we want it for helicopters. If we haven't got the wind into our nose, the wind will try and turn the helicopter towards the wind anyway, which is called weather vaning. So hopefully the smoke will stop in a second as I get closer. And then I'm going to just nudge the helicopter. You watch it not stop. which is not good because it just blinds you. Can you see what I mean? There we go. So he's already said, slide it forward. There's the cargo. We're just going over it. I didn't want to stop there, but okay, press the button. Okay, slowly go up. Taking tension. Try not to move around too much. Okay. So there's your load. And it's as easy as that. Now, everybody who I've ever taught, and I mean people who have never flown the Huey, I have done like sort of group training like this, gone through exactly all these steps, and when people think they're ready to have a go at doing that, then they have a go at it. Everybody, and I mean everybody, has managed to sling. Everybody. And that's from never flying the helicopter before. So just bear in mind what I've gone through. If you've come in late, you can always go back. There's a lot of chit chat in between, but that's just the way I do this. Okay? And everybody can get that level of control to pick that up on the first time ever flying it. And that's what you want to be aiming for. Because then when you can do all of this, when you start putting guns on, when you start ferrying people around, especially if you've got friends with you, it makes life so much easier. So that load, I can guarantee people will pick up. Now what I'm going to show you is the auto unhook. It will pop up on the top right. So now that means that as soon as that cargo touches the floor, right, then basically it will release it. Now you have to be really careful with helicopters. If you look here, we've got something called a vertical speed indicator. We have got an extra 900 pounds of weight on this helicopter. So as I start to go down, you've got to be really mindful that you don't suddenly start going down faster than you want to go down. Once you get used to flying, you should be able to go down and slow down. Because if you can you see the way the helicopter's dropping? It's dropping faster than I want. You can see it going down. I know I've got to get down to about 50 to drop the load off. So if you see the vertical speed indicator, as long as I can keep it below 0, it would be easier possibly for me to start moving forward and descending at the same time. But I don't want to go down too fast. And it should drop the cargo off. We're at 121 at the moment. You don't want to be rushing, trust me, and you don't want to be dragging the cargo along the floor. So all the time I'm coming down, I'm also making tiny little adjustments, and I'm making sure that that needle does not go anywhere near that little number 5. It's going to drop soon, yeah? So I'll stop it moving, slow it down even more, because I'm carrying Easter eggs. Okay, cargo unhooked. Just move away from the cargo, turn round and have a look at the cargo. And what you want the cargo to look like is like it was when you picked it up. Okay, if it's not looking like that, whatever it is, it's probably fell through the floor. Where's it gone? Jeez. Anyone see the cargo? It might suddenly appear, I don't know. Right, I think the car... Oh, there it is. There it... Is it? No, that's a crack. I think the cargo might have fell through the floor. This is the problem on multiplayer servers, right? It's one of the reasons why it's scripted. It's probably through the floor, or at some point it's going to be floating in the air and it'll stretch to like an infinite length and cause a crash. But as long as you understand the principles of it, then that's the main thing. So everybody who's watching, happy with the explanation and how that all works? If you're wondering how the helicopter's just staying like it is, again watch the video a little bit earlier and understand how to hover in ground effect. Right, okay, now that was an easy pickup and an easy drop. If I've put a cargo over here in the right place, there's two cargoes. When I usually do this, when I ask people if they're confident, and they usually say, yep, you know, when they're confident at picking stuff up, I'm not worried about dropping it because that's a different art in itself. Then I ask them if they're feeling confident, and when they say yes, I'll get them to pick this one up. So based on what we've been talking about, this is much harder to pick up because the building is pushing you further away from the cargo, right? Not only that, remember what I said about ground effect, how it basically induces ground effect above a solid object. Look at the shape of this building and look at the place you are going to have to hover to try and pick it up. You're going to have to hover over this one level, next to the other level, with a floor this height and that height. Hey Kev, how are you, matey? I mean, Kev's done this. So basically you're having to deal with different wind bouncing off that building to pick that one up. And there is another one, well, there's another two. I'm not going to do them now because it's much more fun watching other people do them, to be honest. If we go over here, I can't remember because I haven't checked it, I just plopped it on. I put a cargo right on the top of this building. I'm still backtracking a bit at the moment, Kev. I've done this from scratch, usual, just to see how much I remember. And it's not bad. I seem to be getting there. So I'll do the A10 in a minute when I made a cup of tea. So you can see just over here is a cargo. It's slightly offset. It was supposed to be in the middle, but even so, that's good enough. So if you try and hover over this roof, what's going to happen is you're going to be pushed down the roof. So you've got to try and pick that cargo up while hovering over a roof that is split in the air and coming back up at different angles. And then finally, just over the way, I usually forget which building it is, there's another one. And if you can do all of these, then as far as I'm concerned, you know, you're fine. But you have to sort of do difficult things to get your flying skill better and better and better. So somewhere just over here could be these. Let me have a look. There's some H-shaped buildings, and those H-shaped buildings have got cargo down on the floor. I might be too far up, but slinging these as well, you'll find your blades are just missing the buildings, and you've got to hover really high to be able to pick them up. I'm looking for them. I only placed them the other day, and it may be in a different place, but there's some buildings shaped like the letter H, or there may be a little bit further down. But it's just basically for you to hone your skills. Yeah, I think they're more over here. If I can't find them, I can't find them. They're definitely there though. Anyone got any questions? Anyone got a Huey that they're having problems with, or something that's not working the way they think it should? Any issues with flying it, dropping out the air, stuff like that? We'll come on to that in a minute. Can't see the buildings I'm after. How's Kev anyway? I ordered my telescope last week. I ordered a mini tripod. Even though I've got loads of tripods, I just thought I'll order the little tripod as well. And the tripod's come, and it's a lot better than I thought it would be, to be honest. It's quite a sturdy little sort of fluid-headed tripod. And there's a friend who's just come back from Hong Kong. He says you can get the telescope for around about 200 quid over there. Right, I can't see where I've put them. But the point is, it just gets harder and harder. Right, what we need to look at now is landing. So usually what happens, you can get up in the air, you really won't be stable. And the other thing is, as we start moving forward, let's do it from the floor, shall we? We'll talk about what happens. So I'll just come down and land. And then we'll sort of take off. And you see what happens. If you lose control of your helicopter and you let it run away from you, you end up going into the air far too much, far too quick. Let's come down here. And I need to cough. Right, excuse me. Right, so if we start with nothing, no trim, no nothing, and we want to take off, so we're going to take off in that direction. All you've got to do is start moving. As you start moving, you're going to induce lift. As you induce lift, you're going to go higher. If you push your nose forward a little bit and tilt the blades down, you'll start getting faster. As you go faster, you're going to start lifting. When you typically first jump into the helicopter and you start taking off, you're likely to go up in the air with a little bit of a spin and be rocking around all over the place. Oh yeah, I understand that, but even better, when it arrives, our night time is going to be about 3 or 4 hours, if that. However, 3 or 4 hours, if it is a clear sky, is enough to test it out, is it not, without getting like mega cold at night? That's my theory, and I found a spot not too far away. I haven't gone and wrecked it, but it's a listed spot, and it's about 20 odd minutes away from where I am up on Cannock Chase. So that will be good. But yeah, I appreciate that. But I have had a play with Cyril and Graf, or Graxpert is it, and all the other things, and Cyril's on 1.42 beta. So a lot of the stuff's cut down. But yeah, it's quite interesting. And I couldn't get a fix from that other guy, but I found another guy, the something Astro guy, who explains things very good. And each time there's a new version of Cyril, explains it well. The guy you pointed out, I'd seen before. I'd actually seen that video. But I've picked up a bit more now, and I've sort of got my head understanding it, I think. Right, so when we take off, right, I'm just going to sort of lift up. Again, about 30% left. I'm going to pull back a little bit on the stick, just get this under control, and then I'm going to start nudging it forward. Right, now if I do nothing with the collective, just start moving, just nudging the helicopter forward, and it will start to speed up, look. And as it speeds up, it starts to lift. Can you see it shaking? It's where it goes through, I think it's called transition. I haven't touched my collective. I haven't added any more throttle. My collective is where it is. Yeah, exactly. But it'll be enough for a quick test, I'm sure it will. Can you see how fast we're going now? What are we doing? 80, 90 knots? I haven't touched the collective. All I did was lift it up a little bit, tilted my nose forward a little bit, nudge the helicopter. As it starts to pick up speed, it picks up lift, it goes into the air. How hard is that? Right? Now, as we start pointing it forward, if I want to keep going over in that direction, you can see where the diamond is on the top. I'm going to trim it and let go. And now, right, I've got my feet on the pedal still a little bit. I might not need them because of the speed I'm going. There we go. I've relaxed the pedals. Make a slight adjustment again. Relax my stick. Now I can drink a cup of tea if I had one. I nearly coughed on you then. I would have deafened you. Right, okay, you get the gist. Now, I've got my hand on the collective now, because as I start to turn around, or try and turn around, I'm going to roll. I'm going to add a little bit of rudder, but if I'm not careful, the helicopter's just going to brake and stop. By brake, I mean slow down. So just turning around. All nice and easy, no big movements. Where did the airport go? It's around somewhere, isn't it? It's probably this way. Yep. There's the airport. If I want to land from this position, I want to keep moving for a start. I should be able to just slowly come down, but I'm moving. I'm doing about 80 or so. Now look, you see that needle for my climb rate? It's coming quite low down. That means I'm dropping quite quick. Okay? But as I'm going faster, I'm slowly, just look at the stick. Moving the stick back, moving the stick back. Getting lower and lower. And I'm just doing tiny little movements. If I do too many, I've got to drop the collective a bit, otherwise I'll never come down. Got to get the speed down. You see the way the speed's increased? That's because I'm coming down. I'm still just gently nudging the helicopter back, otherwise I'm going to keep climbing. As it speeds up, it's going to keep trying to lift me up in the air. Still pulling the stick backward and relaxing and backward and relaxing. You can see the way that speed's dropping off slowly. It's a very slow descent, this, and it's very bumpy. Not as good as it could be, but soon it's going to really just stop. Look, you can see it dropping now. So I'm now going to add a bit more collective as I'm coming down, because remember, I don't want that needle to be down below that 5 necessarily. But you see how I've slowed down. I've also dropped height. I'm nearly coming all the way down into a hover. And the easiest way, really, is get down into a hover, keep an eye on the needle. I'm not moving forward at all nearly. Just get into that little ground effect. I'm in that little hover, which is easy, I can feel it. And I can just drop it down. That takes quite a while to sort of come down using that technique. The other thing is, it wasn't the best way of doing it in terms of the control. But you can see it just comes down, and it comes down nice and gently. Another way of doing it, let's reset any trim I've got on there. Let's take off. Let's just start pushing forward, just gently. I'm going to go a little bit more drastic by increasing the collective and pushing the stick forward, and we're changing forward motion into quite a steep climb. If I want to come down now, I can use turns. So again, remember at the beginning I mentioned about air is a fluid, water is exactly the same, it's just a denser fluid. So if you're in a jet ski, if you're on a water ski, how are you going to stop? If you're in a boat, you want to stop quick, you can use a turn and use the size of the helicopter to slow you down. You just turn it into the wind, away from the wind, or the way the direction you're going. However, can you see how slow it's going quick? It's braking. Can you see? If you let it go all the way down to 0 and you're not controlling it, you'll hear a squeal, which is a low RPM warning. But you can suddenly stop it quite quick. Now, combat landings, I'll probably be as ropey as shit. But it's the same technique, only a lot more violent. So you can just turn it. I'm left ruddering, see the light come on, you'll hear a squeal sometimes. If I'm out of control there, I'll just drop like a brick. However, I've got that under control, And now I can do another turn. As I'm turning, I'm dropping height quickly, and I'm also increasing collective, and I should be able to get down quite quick. And the closer to the floor I'm going, just pulling my nose up and increasing collective, back into the hover, and then land. Okay. What happens? Oh, excellent. And Netomnia. Oh, right, okay. That sounds brilliant. When I had mine changed, they come and they said, oh, there was a problem, a blockage, but literally they had it sorted in days. But they literally gave me like 2 weeks from when I first spoke to them, and it was just done. So I think you'll be pleased with it when you get it. Just one moment. Since I've been relatively back to normal, I'm getting that ear popping thing and my pressure in my head changing. It's bizarre, isn't it? You have one issue, then you go back to normal. Okay, so basically it's quite easy to land, take off and everything. We're not in an enclosed position. If we were in an enclosed position, then we'd really have to pick our mark. We'd have to, let's do it. Let's not just talk about it. Let's just go and do it. So let's take off, left rudder, nose down. Let's go and find somewhere to land and see how we can get into that spot. So over here, somewhere in the town, there's usually somewhere you've got a lot of obstacles, so you've got to bear those in mind. Sometimes you can't always just drop down into the position you want to drop down into. Can you imagine the pilots during Vietnam trying to drop down to drop troops off? There would be all sorts of helicopter traps. They'd be under gunfire as well, and they'd got to get down. So let's see if we can find somewhere. Hey, yes, I do. If you're the person I think, are you the guy from India? And if you're not the guy from India, you're probably somebody who I helped off a start. Ah, there you go. That is excellent. And the reason being is I had a memory problem for a month because I was ill. I couldn't remember stuff. You just popped on. I haven't spoken to you for what? 18 months? Could be 2 years? Yeah. And I also remember telling you once how to get rid of people who were holding you to ransom when you was in Star Citizen. Which we basically conned. Yeah, there you go. He came onto channel once when I was flying. He said he'd just gone and got some cargo, and pirates had stopped him and were threatening him for his money, and they wanted money off him, otherwise they'd blow him up. So I told him to say, I'm sorry, I've just put all my money in that cargo. Follow me back to where we're going, and I'll give you the money when we get back there. Yeah? And they followed him back. He just got there and then logged off. And I could not believe it. Just one moment, Atom. I hope you're well, matey, because last time we spoke, it probably was towards the tail end of COVID. We're going to land down there in this car park, okay? See this light bit by the trees. So I want to see where I'm going to land. I can see where it is. I want to get down quite low. And I'm looking all around. We can see we got lampposts. We got these buildings here. So I'm getting down low. I'm using turning, look, to drop my height down. And I'm slowing down, using turning. There's the space. So let's try it. Shaking. If it's shaking, that's got to be careful. I've lost it. Right. Oh, right. So that's good, because that means you increased in life, but obviously not gaming. Right, so can anyone tell me what happened there, and if you know straight off the top of your head? And the reason I didn't bother pulling it out, right, which I think I could have done because I'd got enough room, is what happened to me at that point. Because it looked like I was going to land there perfectly. So what happened? And this will happen to all of you if it hasn't already. So how are you anyway? How is life? Are you out, married, running a business, got a new computer, got children? I know it's all quick in 1.6 years, but anybody tell me? Excellent. Everything's picked back up after COVID. Ah well, it'll happen. Thank you, Kev. Okay, so we've gone into something called a vortex ring state. What is a vortex ring state? And it's the one thing that is going to kill you time and time again in a helicopter. Oh, excellent. I hope it all goes well, but make sure you get a computer that's working, unless you've already bought one. I always forget to say his name. Atomirox, is it? Or Atomirox? He's from India. Excellent. Oh, good. Yeah, I had to have a bit of time off. Only a couple of weeks. Ah, right. Atomirox. Is that right? Yeah, he's from India, and he first contacted me during COVID, because I was on a lot more during COVID, because I had a couple of years off work, because I'm an asthmatic and didn't want to get involved in playing COVID games. Right, so that's a VRS. So what is a VRS? It's the biggest scourge you're ever going to find in a helicopter. It doesn't matter how good you are, at some point VRS will grab you by the nuts, drag you to the floor, and there's little you can do. You only need about 10 feet. Oh, she's good. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad at all, really. Yeah, a few little issues there always is. Not with me and her, but yeah, she's just changing job. She's at work at the moment, but she doesn't like it. But yeah, other than that, everything's good, matey. Thank you. So a VRS is a vortex ring state. If you start to descend too quickly and you haven't got any forward movement, the air around your helicopter, around the blades, is going to become turbulent. When that air becomes turbulent, the helicopter will drop. When the helicopter drops, your first instinct will be to increase the collective. When you increase the collective, it puts more pitch on the rotor. When it puts more pitch on the rotor, it makes the VRS worse, and you will drop like a brick. And that can happen anywhere, any height. But usually you'll find it happens when you're coming into land, when you are trying to maneuver into somewhere and you've slowed down too much, when you're dropping cargoes that are really heavy, which is why I said earlier I was being careful, because that extra 900 pounds of weight on my helicopter adds quite a lot. So let's have a little look then, and this will show you how quick you can actually get the helicopter started, if I'm not talking all the way through it. And this is, oops, I'm still in there. I'm not dead, I just need to move. Oh, thank you very much for the follow. Hey, Web Architect, thank you. So if you've missed some of this, Web, if you go back, I've gone through and explained everything. Start up the whole lot. All about everything about the Huey so far. There's quite a lot on there. Okay, so I'll just go through the startup really quickly. I'm not explaining everything this time, because it is a really quick helicopter to start up, to be honest. What did I forget to do then? Nothing. That's fine. That's fine, that's fine. All right. Just starting it up. Because it's so quick, it's just an easy thing to, if you've only got a quick half hour, you can just jump in, get this thing going and practice, and it needs practice. What haven't I done? I forgot to do something. I actually pointed out at the beginning, if you can't hear the helicopter starting, then it means something you haven't done. Does anyone remember? Nobody was listening. Throttle. You need to push your throttle up and all the way down, otherwise there's no fuel in the engine. So if I press that again now, you'll see around about 10 to 12. The rotor will start turning and it will start up. That's a common thing. There it is. You can see the shadow of it to our left. Get it down to 40, which is there, and let go and wait. Right, I used to have a link to VRS, but I need to sort that out one day, where you could see what VRS does to the airflow around the blades. There's a guy, Gulchard, who invented the Gulchard technique for getting out of VRS. We're not interested in that technique at all. It's just merely a method to show visually what happens to the airflow. He uses smoke to demonstrate it, and it is perfect. I'll have to do a drawing one of the days, or as good as a drawing I can do. So all I'm doing now is just increasing the throttle. I'm still not going fast. That runs away a little bit, so you have to be careful. Keep the needles together. As soon as we get all the way up and there's no load, needles will drop down. Okay, look up, and we'll set these, that one, come back down to here. We're going to switch that on, reset that, change this, and then we're ready to go again. Okay, all we need to do is go back just a little bit. Okay, so let's see if we can find the spot I was at before. Give it about 30 degrees left, or 33%, sorry. Let's get up and let's go and see if we can find that spot. It's not too far away. So VRS will occur usually when you're not moving forward, you're outside the range of hover and you're descending. So it's very easy to put into a VRS. So if we get to a point, for instance, where we are not moving forward, now for instance, and then I start dropping my collective, we're going to drop down vertically. Okay, watch the climb, helicopter will shake like shit, and we'll start to drop. It's moving forward a little bit, I'll try and stop it. Can you hear it? Right, flatten your blades, push the helicopter, start increasing your blades. If you're quick enough, you only need about 10 feet. And then you've got out of a VRS. You saw the warning light coming on, that was low RPM, etc. So let's get back and see if we can find where it was we were going to land. I can't remember if it was this one here, was it? Yeah, that'll do. See the one on the left there. So again, we'll come round. Let's see if we can do it without crashing this time. Again, using turning to slow myself down. I am going a little bit quick at the moment. When you start going really quick, it's really difficult to, the tail rotor doesn't do as much as it does when you're slower. Was it the one just behind those flats? Right, it can be, I suppose. Yeah, it was over this way. Yeah, we're going to that little gap there by the tree and the block of flats. It's probably harder. It's not the best side if you're looking. Can you see from here? That's not the best side to get into that little area. I can't tell at the moment if there's any poles there. But if I want to get down there, just this side of the flats, I think there's a car parking area. This one we're just passing now. Let's see if we can get down there. We've got buildings to avoid. See there? That's quite tight, isn't it? We can get in there, I think. But see my VRS, my vertical speed indicator? Got to be careful. Losing all the speed now. Look, it's just dropping off. Got to be careful. Watch that speed indicator. Okay, I've leveled it out. There's the space. Pushing up the collective. Starting to move the helicopter forward gently, which is going to help. And I'm off again if I'm not careful. There it goes. Come on, pick it up. There you go. Picked it up. Stopped the VRS. And here's the spot I wanted. Got a tree right up my ass. So remember the exercise from earlier on is trying to understand how wide your chopper is, how long it is, where you don't want it hitting. But do you see how easy it is to get into that VRS? Now it's a little bit more under control. And again, it feels so counterintuitive to pull your collective back or forward, whichever way you've got it, flatten the blades and then push your stick. So I'm going to land here, right? And I've got to think of a way of getting out. Remember where my blades are? We've got a lot of stuff behind us. We've got buildings to our right and everything. If I go back too far, I'm going to hit something. So as I'm landing, I'm also looking for how to get out. And the other thing is, excuse me, the only way we can really get out of here is this way. And we have got enough room, but rather than sort of just go straight up, what you want to do is try and find somewhere where you can move forward. And as you move forward, you'll induce lift naturally and go up rather than overcooking the engine. Right, so that's how you can land in a little space. It isn't easy, but you've just got to make sure. Oh, you found it? Is that the Vulchard one with the smoke? I'll have to switch the reading all that link off. Is that the Vulchard one, matey? If it is, in a couple of seconds I'm going to go and make a cup of tea because I've been talking. Right, thanks. I've been talking for a couple of hours or more and I need another drink. So to take off. Hey Stixie. I'm going to push left. Alright. Oh, that's the other one, is it? See if you can find it. It is Vulchard. Okay. Keep the control. Just edge it forward. It's lifting itself. Remember what I said about trees? Yeah, as always. And we're out. Okay. Again, that's something worth practicing. Pardon? Oh yeah, I know. I'll find out when I go to set everything up. Sometimes the day before I'll check. So I did my updates yesterday. So what I'm going to do is just pop this out over here by the base. And then what I'm going to do is make a cup of tea. So have a look at the links that Kev's put. It'll give you more information about VRSs. And if he finds the one with the smoke, that's even better. Pardon? I am. I think the other server's up. It's only because I'm just going through stuff that I should already know from scratch. It's just helping me, really, to be honest, Dixie, after the last month or so. See the helicopter shake? That's when you're coming down too fast. So again, just... It's getting there. It was a bit shaky at the beginning, but it's getting there. I've just gone through everything and I've still got more to do since about 10:30. I would have been on at 10, but all this new DCS stuff they've integrated in is a crock. And you suddenly find you can't select stuff or anything. But they've put something in and it seems to default to a particular setting and I need to disable it on everything. Right guys, I am going to jump and make a cup of tea. If you want a coffee break, now is a good time. Have a look at the links that Kev is posting and I'll be back shortly. I do need a drink. I'll be back in a minute, mate, so just go and make a drink. Let's see if anyone else is on before I go. No one's on. What was that, Stu? Yeah, I was going to say the other server's up, Sticks. I'm just doing this just because I'm doing, as I said, remembering stuff. Right, I can't find anyone on this server, guys, but I'll be back in a minute. Thanks, Kev. But have a look at that second video and the first if you want. See what you think. Right, I'm back. Did anyone look at the second video at all to get an idea of what VRS is? And you can see what the air does. I take that as nobody looked. It's well worth a look anyway. It'll basically give you a really good understanding of what's going on. Right, the Huey is a helicopter that you can have an awful lot of fun with. If you've got friends with the Huey, that's right, yeah, friends with the Huey, even if it's only the trial licence, you can get 3 of your mates in with you, okay? So with a Huey, there's another few things you can do. So one of them is you've got a whole load of weapons and gunners. So we're back at a base, right, and we need to get some gunners on. So what I'm going to do is call up the screen. Now I'm going to increase the fuel back to where it was, and I'm going to put on some door gunners. If you put door gunners on and everything on, there may be, let's have a look. Yeah, we'll put door gunners on there as well, mini guns. Watch what happens to the weight. Okay, it's going to make you overweight, and you can fly it, but it's horrible and you shouldn't fly it, and it's likely going to cause you to burst into flames. So it's better to decide what it is that you want to do. What I tend to go for, I don't bother with these rockets, I'll remove them. And these guns basically, let's see what they are they've got on. Okay, mini guns. So 1 and 6 is the co-pilot guns or the pilot guns. 3 and 4 are the mini guns. If you drop to the M60, see the weight is 9586. These guns aren't quite as effective, but they're lighter. So you can get away with that, and you might be able to get away with rockets, but you might also find that depending on your mission, drop your fuel down, because that makes quite a big difference as well. However, mostly from my own point of view, I tend to put mini guns on all the way around. Okay, we'll have a look at rockets in a minute anyway. So when I say okay, what we've got to make sure is that we get a copy on the top left. So when I press it, we want refueling, we want rearming, and we got no copy. You are not going to get refueled or rearmed. This happens when you're not in the right place. You could be in a place that you think is right at a fob, but there's no weapons, or there's no rearm refuel facility. Or it could be simply that you haven't got your radio on. You look down on the left hand side, look down here, it says PVT for private. If you click it once to INT, that's intercom. If we make the same call again, if I press the right buttons, we ask for the same weapons again. Take these off. Put these on. Okay. We've got about £100, less than £100 spare there. So really, as I said, it's better to pull this down just to give you a little bit more headroom with the manoeuvring. Say okay, and we should get a copy. Okay, so now they're going to rearm and refuel. Oh yeah, it's got a solar one, and then the filters are built in. They used to, on the Dwarf 2, have external filters, but you've got a dual band, a Viz, and Astro filters, and they mechanically slide into position internally. I spoke to one of my staff, and he was in Hong Kong 2 weeks ago. He bought one back for a friend's sister, friend's daughter, because they asked him to, and over there it's about 200 quid, and he just bought it back in hand luggage, and that was that. So if you know anybody in Hong Kong, also I believe it's where it's distributed from as well, or distributed from. Okay, so we've got all the guns on, and you can see we've now got 2 guys in the back. Okay, if we press Windows left, Windows and H, we get a menu, and this menu is to control the AI gunners. If your friends are in these seats, i.e. they can be the co-pilot or the 2 gunners, then they can fire the guns. They can also be in VR. So basically, they can be in VR, you don't have to be, you're flying, And the Huey against multiplayer is rock solid. What I mean by that is their view in the helicopter is as stable as my view. There's no shakiness, there's virtually no desync at all. It just works, okay? So if we look at the panel on the bottom right, we can control what happens to the AI players. Obviously the white one is me. You've got your health, i.e. we're green, that means we're good. You've got ROE, rules of engagement. Hold means don't shoot at anything, okay? They can tell the difference between friendlies and enemies, so that's not too bad. The ammo is how much you've got, and the burst is what sort of burst rate. So if I go along now, the rules of engagement, and we use left control and the number. So 1 is you, 2 is the co-pilot, 3 is the left door gunner, and 4 is the right. So you'll hear the audio change when I enable them. So the doors have opened, the doors have opened, the gunners are ready, okay? When it says return fire, they will only return fire, which means if they shot at. If we move it another notch, they will fire at anything they see which fits in that rules of engagement, i.e. an enemy. The burst mode, I've got to try and remember which button it is. It's not that one. It's the button next to it, I think. That one? Yeah. So it's shift and the number. Long fire, they will keep firing and they will get through ammo like nobody's business. Short, and they will go burst mode. Burst, 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 burst. Right? Short bursts. So that's the best way of doing it, otherwise you'll run out of ammo. So now you've got your gunners set, you can also do the co-pilot. So the co-pilot is sitting there, he's got his visor down. If we move him, it engages it, and now he's looking through there. My personal view is I will fly to put these guys in the best possible position to shoot at what they need to shoot at. So as soon as I hear a shot, I will position the helicopter, so if the left door gunner shoots at something, I will put him in a position that he can shoot. When you're on the left or right gun, imagine you're sitting looking out, you've got a range of about here to here. So if I fly too far past the target, nobody can shoot. So I'd have to rotate the target to keep the door gunners within range. I keep an eye on the ammo, and if I'm running out on one, I'll flip round to the other side, okay? They're no good against armour. They will shoot at it, but they're no good against it. However, this helicopter is absolutely brilliant at taking out SA2 installations. It will completely obliterate all of it. And if you can fly in low enough and you don't get detected, you can just go and take it out. And if they've got no protection, which very often there's very little protection on the SA2s because they are fairly low level, they're very easy to shoot down. Obviously it's great for troops, soft targets, trucks, even AA guns and things if you can get a line on. I usually fly with this off, and that's it. If we look down here, we've also got flares, so we need to arm the flares. Okay, we've also got chaff as well according to that. I can't remember if I used chaff, probably not. If we look outside, okay, there's my flares. And I concentrate on letting my gunners be in the right place. I don't think on this map we've got much in the way of enemy to shoot at without running a mission. I do think someone's already started a mission. If I just check it, I'm sure there's a mission running. Right, okay, I know what machine's running. So it's all the way down here. I'm not going to fly over there. And we'd get shot anyway, right? So basically, I've got nothing to shoot at. However, all you've got to do is worry the fact you've got extra weight. And it means it's going to fly differently. All that weight of these guys in the back plus all their ammo makes a big difference. So if my guy over here was shooting towards this building here, I would be flying around the building like this so that my guy has got the maximum exposure to shooting whatever it is he's shooting at the building. Obviously I wouldn't necessarily be flying at this height going around, right? But you get the gist. It's keeping him in position to shoot at the building. If it was my front gunner, then I'm going to have to go around differently. So if he started shooting at something over here, say round by this end, right, I'm going way too fast to be able to keep him on target. Slowing down. See, my tail rotor is virtually ineffective. I would slow right down and then I'd try. Sorry? Oh no, I didn't intend to. Sorry, where are you? Oh right, I didn't realise. See, so you go around with your co-pilot and let him shoot whatever the target was over there, okay? This wasn't the best example, but you get the gist. And that's how you play with your gunners. If you want to shoot yourself, you can. Not shoot yourself, but do the shooting. Right, there is a scope or target sight here that you can drop by pressing this. And then round the side, see this little switch? This is me being so lazy with my buttons. There. We can switch on the sight. Okay. We can also come down here. And I think there's a switch there to choose which guns you're firing. First of all, we're going to make sure it's armed. We can select the left gun, the right gun, or all guns, and it is armed. You can tell by the lights, and this switches forward. Safe is green. And then we can choose right, left, or all. So now, once I lift up, I've got to remember what the button is. It could be that my co-pilot's on and he's got control of the guns, so let me just check. Windows and H. Windows and H even. There we go. So we'll switch the co-pilot off. Let's see if we got the guns back. There we go. And we'd use that as a guide. Now bear in mind that little target pip varies. Once you find out where it's actually hitting, look. No, I'm just demonstrating. Can you see you can actually get a good bead on targets that are in a particular position? Because of the speed I'm going, I can't suddenly turn around too quick. If I turn around too quick, all I'm going to do is stop. If they're going to shoot back, I'm going to be dead. But you get the gist. Use anything around you to give you cover. You can adjust the angle there depending on where you're trying to shoot. Let's see if we can hit that little grey thing over there. Hopefully that's not Stixie. And it's about looking through there and keeping your eye on the target and firing. The problem is, excuse me, if I've got gunners on my sides and I'm worried about what I'm shooting at, I am stopping them from shooting, and it's more effective for them to shoot. So by all means, you know, use it and practice with. Yes, matey. We've also got a thingamajig. You can send it to me on WhatsApp, and also even on Discord. Is it astronomy stuff or is it the links or what? Let's slow down. Let's change these things. Let's put some rockets on. Now, if you are going to stop and move, right, which you can do on grass easy enough, you can do it on here as well. As long as you're forward facing, you'll skid, hence the term skids. If you've got any sideways movement on your skids, you'll topple over sideways, okay? So never try and land where you've got sideways movement. All that'll happen is it'll tip, it'll put your blades into the floor. Let me think. Let's see if we can change the weapons. What we'll do is leave the gunner on. We'll put the rockets back on. Just pick some unguided rockets. Okay. Again, keep an eye on the weight. Okay. Make sure it says copy. And then the two gunners at the back will go. It's a very subtle paint scheme, isn't it? Oh, that's good. They shut the doors as well. That's really good of them. Now we got rockets.
Rearming complete.
They've disappeared off the screen. Let's switch that off. If we look round to the left, we should find a rockets switch. And we can choose how many rockets. And I can't see, there it is. I think this button chooses what we're firing. If I can remember. And we fire 2 rockets at a time. And again, it's very much point the thing at the thing. And hopefully we'll shoot some rockets. Okay. The longer you hold the button down, obviously you have to have an angle. And my keyboard's in the way again. Slide it out of the way. Let's go and find something to shoot without scaring Stixie. Say those buildings. Too high. Lower a bit. Okay, you get the gist. All the rockets are gone. That's it. That was that particular type of rocket. Anyone got any questions? It is great fun, the Huey. If you can learn to fly this and all the little things I've explained, when you jump into something else, it really is going to be so much easier. The difference is you are flying this. You jump into a Shark and you learn how to use the systems to fly it, and you're flying the systems. You jump into the Apache, you've got even more systems. But learn this first and it'll help you with your progression into helicopters. There's some good little missions, or you can write one, because takeoff and landing are the most precarious. You can set yourself little missions up, or go and find some where all you're doing is dropping troops off, and you constantly pick some troops up, give yourself a limited area, go and drop them off, give yourself a limited area where you got to drop them, and then once you've dropped them off, right, go and get some more troops. So I used to write missions like that for training people, and what they didn't know is every time they dropped troops off, more troops would appear to go and shoot the troops they dropped off. So it's an everlasting cycle of picking them up. And I got I used the tent for pickup, but put vehicles around it, so you got to land in a circle, take off, navigate lampposts and little driveways, drop the troops, take off, come back, and so on and so on. And it's a really good way of practicing. Anyone got any questions on that? Right, I need to drink my cup of tea. It is very quiet on stream, to be honest. Did you send something via WhatsApp, Kev? Oh, let's move that over there. Ah, right. Oh, right. Yeah. That's all right. Is it still in your still in the garage at the moment? I take it. Right. Anyone got any questions? Now, I was going to do the A10C, but I realised it's unbelievable. It's taken me over 2 hours just to cover the Huey. It would be good, you know, if people were new to DCS and you wanted to learn the Huey, I'm quite happy to go through that and help you out. And believe me, the difference between going through that with somebody explaining it to you and watching you and seeing what you're doing wrong will accelerate your learning time phenomenally. Whatever the Muppets sing about, it'll do that. I was going to, as I said, do the A10, but I haven't got a cat in hell's chance. That's a minimum of 4 hours just to get going, really, up in the air and dropping basic weapons. And there's an awful lot in that to digest. I'll probably do it next week. But for now, I'll jump into something else. In fact, I can jump into the other mission. Let's see where Sticks is.
Want to do a bit of refurb first?
Ah, right, yeah, no worries. Is it a manual sort of turnaround or electric? I was looking at some guy who's in probably Canada or somewhere, and he just literally knocked one up with a couple of crates.
Full auto.
Oh, right, really? That's quite good. He knocked something up with a couple of crates and then stuck his scope inside, and he said he got such a slagging off because it wasn't done properly and it was and he said, but it works. Do you know what I mean? And that was it. And it did. Let's have a look. I could jump in this, but there's no mission to do or anything. Let's jump in this. Let's see how we get on. So this is a Chinook. The Chinook is a really nice module, but it's incomplete. If you're fairly new to DCS, the way it works is we're going to bring out a module, pre-buy it now, pre-buy it, okay, then it'll come out maybe later, and it comes out, but a lot of it doesn't work. So I started, when I bought new modules, not flying them at all, and I still haven't flown the F-16 yet. I'm still not sure if it's finished yet. I bet it's still in beta. I haven't bothered flying it. The reason being, with a lot of things, is that you learn, you get a grasp of something, and then it completely changes. It's a pain in the ass. Now, the Apache is one of the few things that I did pick up when it come out, and it's gone through about 3, maybe 4 various changes in the flight model. And you get used to it, and then it gets changed, so you got to get used to it again. And it makes it really difficult when you're trying to teach people. However, with the Chinook as well, there's bits I don't know on it, but I know enough to fly it. I know enough to drop cargo in the missions, and it's a really nice helicopter. It flies completely different to anything else. I think over time it should be really good. It's a nice module, but it just doesn't have a lot of the stuff built in yet. Has there been any additions to this Stixie, to the Chinook? Yeah, has there been any updates to it that you've noticed? Yeah, fair enough. It's a relatively easy startup at the moment because it is fairly basic. So if
Probably in the flights that you have to tame a bit more.
yeah,
Unless you stop playing with the wind.
yeah, the wind's quite low down now. It's about 1 meter per second. So if you switch the battery on, okay, and then what we're going to do is, this is the APU, so that's an auxiliary power unit. You'll find an APU in the Shark, you'll find an APU in the Apache, you'll find an APU in most things once you get away from things like the Huey. So you have to switch the startup down for 5 seconds to run. And then once you've done 5 seconds in the run mode, you then hit the start for 2 seconds. So we'll click it once and count to 5 in your head. And then you press it down for 2 and let go and wait. And you should hear it start. When it starts, after a few seconds, you'll see APU either on or ready here. Sometimes you'll do it and it won't. So just do it again. As you can see in this case. Okay, that looks like it's on. I don't think it's coming on. So I'll try again. I'll switch the battery off. And I've found this a couple of times. Switch it on. Press it on. Down for 2. Let go. See if it comes on this time. It says looking down. Oh, you'd think that was coming on. Unless I'm being too impatient. Battery's on, which is why some things are lit up. Okay. Pain in the ass, eh? Now I did it a little bit longer and run. You what?
Entering the way.
Okay, no worries, matey. APU's ready now.
For a few flybys to see if everything's set up and then try to take it down.
Okay. Right, now, I've seen a few variations on this. First of all, the crossover or crossfeed, we switch open. On the left hand side, we're going to switch fuel 1, fuel 2, down at the bottom here. Now, I'm not sure whether we need this on straight away or not, but I'll put it on, which is backup power. We're going to move this lever down to ground by rolling the mouse wheel, and then it'll just slot into ground. There. We're going to press and hold the starter to number 1, and then we're going to look down at the screens that aren't on. And the reason the screens aren't on is because I forgot to switch the APU on after it says the APU was ready. Okay, that's why we got no screens. So when we look down, if we look on this screen here, we can see NG, and we're looking at NG1, and when that reaches 12, we're going to let go of that starter switch. If we look down here, there's a whole series of cautions, and they'll slowly disappear as we get it started. So the switch is here, so remember, hold it, number 1, look down here, wait for that to say 12, let go and wait. Again, this is a helicopter that has systems, and there's an extent where you're flying and the systems are controlling it, which is quite different to the Huey. Sorry for the slurpy, gulpy noises. I'm drinking my tea so it doesn't get cold. Charlie flying today, Stu?
No, I haven't seen him.
I saw him in the
He's in the bottom. Okay, so when this reaches...
In the server.
Pardon?
He's not in the server.
No, he's down the bottom. He spoke earlier, but he may be doing something. So we got 55 there. So when it's at 55, we start the other engine. And it's just more or less the same. So let's have a look. I'm trying to get into a decent place. So we switch the after fuel, forward fuel. We roll this down to ground. And we hold the right mouse button. We look down here, and when it gets to number 12, we let go. Oh, I let go earlier then. To be honest, I think at this stage in its development, it's a little bit more forgiving over some of the things that you do. It is a very oversimplified flight and startup procedure, I think, to be fair. Okay, once it's started, once both of these numbers are up in the 50s, 55.6 to be precise, we're going to roll these levers down to the next stage, which is flight. You'll hear the revs go up. You'll hear the throttles increase. And that is that. A few things we've got to switch if we look down here. There's a little screen here. If we hit power, we can see EGI 1, EGI 2. EGI is Embedded GPS Inertial Navigation Unit. And we're going to have to switch the button twice. Once, twice, he says. Try again. Only switching the button this time. Same on the other side. Okay. If we go down here, this is trimming system. So the cyclic trim is set to auto. If you leave it on auto and turn this to both, it will do it automatically. Okay. We're going to switch on the RWR, and then you're going to start hearing messages if there's anything it's picking up. Okay. If we go down here, we're going to switch on the flares, and I'm going to move them to bypass so I can manually fire them. Okay. If we look over here, there's other things you should be checking, but as I said, it's quite a simplified startup. There's the map. If we select, let me think, that one, we can have the map on or off and an overlay, and we can switch on flight plan, and then we can select somewhere, which I don't know. Where's the next step for their flight plan? To be honest, I don't know. All I ever do is use this for carrying stuff. Now we've got everything started, we don't need the APU, but before we switch off the APU, we need to make sure we switch the generators on. Then we switch the APU off, switch off the APU starter off, look back at the top, he said, without breaking my neck, and I think, is it that one? Yeah, crossfeed, we leave that off. And fundamentally that's it. It's as easy as that. It flies incredibly easy. You can do slinging in it. There's variations on slinging, I haven't dealt with it. And you can also, the fact that we've got that trimming system on, when you move at a certain speed, it'll kick it. Pardon? Oh, right, you've got them all going, yeah? Right, so all I'm going to do now... What you want to do when you create them and they're working is export them all out somewhere. Have more than one copy on more than one disk, or even on a flash drive, and just save it. It's a lot easier. That's fair enough. Multiple copies is the answer. So as you increase the collective, this thing's just going to lift off. And it lifts off incredibly easy. It feels, there's so much power in it. It's just... What's that there, 15? It just flies. It's a completely different beast. And we haven't rolled around the Perry track or anything like that, but you've got a wheel down here and it just controls one wheel, and that's it. So as we start moving forward and we get to a certain speed, can't remember what that is, I'm pretty sure the trimmer system will automatically switch in once we got our nose down and we go in, I think. I can never remember the speed. I shall have to look it up. And there's something interesting with it. I need to trim that out a bit. But it'll fly. There we go. It'll fly level. And I think this is slowing down too much, as you can see, by itself. And the other interesting thing it does, if it's set how I think it might be, if you look at the little ball there, that little ball shows you whether you're doing coordinated turns or not. Can you see it? Can you see the way it's centered? Right, look at the turn I'm doing. Right. Now, for that to be centered on most things, I would have to use my rudder to make sure that we weren't slipping in the air. This thing is adjusting itself automatically. I'm not doing that. And that's what I mean when you put that thing on auto. So it'll keep it nice and level. And it will also, right, manage when you're turning. It's really quite smart, to be honest. And unfortunately, on this particular mission, we can't do a lot. The mission we normally fly, which is running in the background, we use these for cargo, and we sort of load cargo up. You, pardon? We use the Chinook to just carry weapons and armaments to various locations, and occasionally some of them, Stu and that, will do slinging. I haven't sort of done a lot with slinging, to be honest, in this at all. But it's a really smooth flight. Now, when this come out, it was horrible. It was like a big, sort of heavy, wallowy, floaty, not very enjoyable helicopter to fly. But now they've got that trimming bit in, it feels much better. The question I always have though, does that mean it's flying more realistically, or is it less realistically? And you have to be really careful when you come into land. Like we discussed earlier on, when you're coming in, it's very easy to VRS. And when you're carrying weight, and you can carry like 9,000 pounds in this with no problems whatsoever, you really have to be mindful of the weight, because it's very easy to VRS this as well and drop it. So if I want to slow down, I'm slowing down. I'm just using the helicopter against the wind at the moment. And I'm going to start pushing gently left, adding a bit more collective as we come down. And then eventually, as it starts slowing down, I'm adding more collective. So when I actually land, I'm in a little hover, just pop it on the floor. That's it. Right, there's not a lot more I can show you in the time that I've got, really. I don't want to start on, say, a Shark or go to the Apache or the A10. Then next week I'll do the A10 from scratch if anyone's interested. It's one, again, it's a really enjoyable aircraft to fly. It's old, it's slow. They're just phasing it out in the States. It's devastating. It's brilliant as for its job, it's close air support. But it's the difference between flying something like a modern plane, like the F-18, and a World War II plane. So a World War II plane is you. Whatever you do, it's up to you. How you do it is up to you. With some of the more modern planes, you're flying the systems and understanding the systems. You want to blow something up 10 mile away, you can. Are you going to have to go to it? No. With the A10C, your longest range missile, if you low down, is about 7.5 mile. If you go high, you can stretch that to 12, but high is like over 15,000 feet. If you're going against SAMs, which it's not designed for, you have to fly and use terrain masking and lots of other things so you don't get blown up. And the fact it will stay in the air for such a long time without you sort of running out of fuel and dropping out the sky, it just makes it phenomenal. And what I'll do next week is I'll go over startup, I'll go over the basics, I'll start up a simple target practice mission, show you how your main weapons is used, which is the AGM-65D, talk about how you use it to lock on, how you can ripple them, how you come back, but I'll need sort of 4 hours for that, or 5 hours maybe, but that's what I'll do. So if anyone's interested, you're more than welcome to take part. If you haven't got an A10 and you want to learn it, then just go and download the trial for next week, and then we'll go through it, and I'll go through it at a pace where you can keep up. It's going to be parrot fashion. You just follow my instructions and you'll be flying. I don't expect you to remember it, and you shouldn't try and remember it, and you shouldn't try and write it down, because that'll just confuse you. There's a lot of terminology. Hey, Yam, you alright, matey? Timing's excellent. I'm just about to jump off. But other than that, hopefully there was something in there. I know it was mostly on the Huey, but I did it properly how I normally would from scratch and remembered everything. Do you know what happened today, Yam? Somebody come on who I first met some 18 months ago or so, and he said, do you remember who I am? And I did remember who he was exactly. They have to do letter service. Ah, right. Fine. Yeah, that wasn't that guy. He was somebody. He was a Star Citizen guy, and there was something I did to help him out, which I could remember. Just one moment. Let me reply to Pingy. Anyway, guys, I am going to jump off just a little bit earlier today because there's not a lot I can do on this. If you want to join in next week, as I said, please do. If you haven't got a module, you can download it, use the trial version, and we'll go from there. Then we go and find somebody to pass you all over to. Yeah, I should be. think there's some stuff. Alright Kev, thanks for the picture and that, and now you know where to get hold of me. Hopefully at some point I'll be able to send you some pictures as well, huh? That'll be a thing. Right, anybody watching on YouTube, thank you